You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning and hello, kids. Yes, I'm dancing. I'm in a real good mood this morning. No particular reason. I'm just in a really, really good mood.
Awesome.
So, welcome to Season 3 and episode number 148 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Today, recording day is Friday, June 23rd, 2023, and it looks like it's going to be a mix of sun and cloud here at the Beaver Lodge. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, and my the pressure on my seat is slowly declining.
You're sinking. You're sinking. And that's a new chair too, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, new-ish. I mean, we've been here about 2 years now. We bought it about a year before we moved in, but it just stayed in the box because there was where we were.
No place to put it.
Yeah, it was. Let's just put it this way: it was in like at least 100-year-old house, and there was not one level floor anywhere in the place. Everything had like cardboard under it. So yeah, a chair with wheels was just not a good idea. So it stayed in the box. And then for about a year, everything was fine. And then every now and then now I'm just like sitting in the chair. And then all of a sudden it just like slowly pumps down.
If you can feel it go incrementally, it's not as bad. There's one at my office, one particular meeting room that just, it goes ever so slowly and you don't even realize it until suddenly, why is the table so high? And why are my knees up by my ears? What the hell is going on here? And like, oh, the chair sunk, but it's very slow. It doesn't drop quickly. It's just.
Yeah. Very, very, very slowly like this, but it like, you could just like feel like the very slow pump. And sometimes it happens a little faster depending on like where I'm swiveled. So depending on, there's certain places where I'm swiveled, it will go down faster. And if it starts going down and like I'm in the middle of a sentence and I don't want my thought disturbed, I just like turn my chair a little bit and it goes down a little slower. Humans are weird, right? We actually like figure out ways to, yeah, this is bothering me, but not enough for now. Okay, now I got to do something about it. Pump it up. So yeah, kids, if you've ever seen me like just, yeah, or
That's
reaching
why.
down. That's what's going on here. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him. Hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And as you can hear, with me, as always, is my dear friend, Mr. Grizzly. It's nice to see you.
It's
Of
good to see you
course.
too.
Yeah. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. And just sending out a little love to Tina at the Peppermaster because there's been a loss.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
A parent.
Oh,
So
sounds a tragedy.
Yes, and actually, it's happened twice this year too. From because we mentioned, I think we mentioned it when it happened a little bit from our sponsors from Corvid Moon Publishing also had a loss of parent earlier this year as well. So it's been a tough year. It's been a tough year.
It's one of those things that we all have to come to grips with is all going to happen to all of us eventually, right? But it's still never easy. It's never easy. And you never really get over a loss of a loved one, a parent especially. You just don't. The grief is always there.
Yeah, and then there's the whole other end of the process in that, like before that happens, we have a lady in our play who, after doing the play, sometimes goes to a home and does like a 4 to 8 hour shift because her mother-in-law is at that stage of her life. And it's like you're doing that and you're coming to do the play and you're knocking it out of the park.
Might be the emotional punch that she needs to get her there. I don't know.
I don't know, man, but it's like, wow, like it's just amazing, man, how people can have so much going on and still perform.
Yeah, I understand that.
I can't. I have to say it's. I know this is going a little long before we get into it, but it's Friday, so we have a little more time.
We have time.
We have 2 more shows left, and I am really sad to see this one end.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been. You guys have been. I mean, again, it was an emotional roller coaster that was not expected. It's been. If you haven't had a chance to see the play yet, go and see it. You won't regret it. You may shed a tear or two, so have some Kleenex ready, or a tissue, or a hanky, whatever you want to call it. It's unexpected. You may have an emotional response. Maybe you won't. I don't know. I did.
The audiences are being amazing. Just it's really something. It's really like when we did To Kill a Mockingbird, the audiences were great, but it was completely different, right? Because it was the era of George Floyd, and
that must have been a difficult play to get through because a lot of the language of that novel.
Well, that was the thing. I'm not sure what we do if we were doing the show then, but yeah, right in the first audition, it was like right there in the text, and it's like,
I have to say that. Yeah,
but it's like we're doing this. It's like you got to do it now, and we're doing it. Yeah. But it was the same thing when I went to Stratford to see it the year before we did it. It was the same thing when we were sitting in the audience. They had like 2 screens that had like old newspaper sort of headlines, and there was one of them, and it had the word in the headline there. And it was really weird because I've grown up in Canada all my life, and I have never seen that word
in a newspaper
anywhere. Like visually, I've not seen it written, not right in anything. And I just sat there, and it was like just like it actually like hit me, which was really weird.
And you're not. And just so we don't have any misinterpretation on this, you are not saying there's no racism in Canada. That's not what you're saying. You just never saw that word written in print.
Yeah,
is what you're saying. And
then the first time
we need to make people understand that, though, right? It's like you're not saying there's no racism in Canada. I wish there was no racism.
I've been fortunate enough not to
be on the receiving end.
I've faced much of it. Let's put it this way: looking the way I look, and if I haven't noticed it. But on the other hand, like I say, I've said also, there have been instances where, you'd be surprised what people say about certain racial groups when they don't think that there's someone from a certain racial group in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
what's the saying? Canada is the world's most polite country in public.
Mm-hmm.
Behind closed doors?
Not so much. Not all the time. We're pretty decent, but not all the time.
We've got a ways to go. But at least, and now we're in an area with social media and people being emboldened by the former president to come out and say those things in public on social media. And we've seen this over the last few years, especially during the COVID pandemic, where people like Rat King would come out and just say exactly what he meant. How Diagolon came about because they're saying exactly what they think, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've, but it hit me still, seeing it, right? So when we did that one and we got the applause for that one, and in that one I didn't have a major role because that was the one time this didn't work for me.
It wasn't going to work, yeah.
Oddly enough, because I'm kind of unidentifiably ethnic.
Right.
You just like put me with a certain group and I can, is he? Maybe.
Well, maybe. You certainly pass as Italian in this play, so.
So it's a bit of a weird situation, So it's but this play, the 4 actors who play my grandparents. This was basically a masterclass for me.
Oh yeah.
Right. And for my co-star Lisa, who plays my kind of love interest.
Ish, yeah.
Ish. So it's this was a gift because I wasn't looking for it, right? I mean, I was helping with the audition process, but I was not auditioning myself.
And they just asked you to take the role.
And then, well, they asked me to shave and read for the role the next day, and I did. So, but wow, this was a gift. So, yeah, I'm actually, because there are shows where I've never had a show where I wanted it to be over, except potentially the one I directed, because that did not go.
And not necessarily want it to be over, but you're okay when it ends, right? But this is a different story.
Time.
Yeah.
Like this, this was time, or this was a good run. It's sad. Not even it's time. It's sort of like, yep, this was satisfying. Because the thing with the play, especially when you're a grown up, is that when you're a grown up, most of the things you do are ongoing. Like your mortgage is ongoing for 25 years, and then you pay it off. It's like, yeah, I did that. Because, but when you're younger, right, you're involved in all these activities, and it's like, oh yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that, and that stops as you get older. Well, a play, you have like a set start time, a set middle, a set end. You have a set goal. It's done. People saw it. It's in a package. You have the program as your souvenir that says that you did it, and it's like, yeah, I did that. And that just doesn't happen to us as adults so much anymore, because most of the things we do, we're raising a family. Well, that's ongoing until something like, for example, a graduation happens, which allows me to give a shout out to my nephew, Marco, be a proud gunkle, because yesterday was his primary school graduation. And turns out...
They do that in primary school?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
they didn't do that when I was there.
No, we didn't get one either. But grade 8 graduation.
Yeah,
and
grade 8.
Guess who was the valedictorian?
Oh, so he's in elementary school, or?
Yeah, he's going to be going to high school.
So grade 8.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. He's going to high school next year?
Yes. So he's graduated from elementary school. Oh. Graduated from grade 8 going to grade 9.
Okay, yes. Well, you said primary school, and I was confused.
Oh, primary. Oh, that's maybe a gaullisme, sorry. In French,
okay. Primary. Yeah, primary is like, kindergarten into first grade sort of thing. 8th grade graduation. Yeah, that was a big deal. Yeah. We didn't spend a lot of money on it. We just dressed up and that was it. And we'd go out to dinner. That was the extent of it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But guess who was the valedictorian?
Your nephew.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And did he do a good job?
Nice.
Like a really good job. He wrote it himself. He delivered it. He was like, that young man is impressive. He's really impressive. And recently he was at he started playing competitive volleyball, and the team he was went to like the Ontario Championships and came home with silver, and just he's killing it. That kid. And then Christina, my niece, had her first piano recital, and she knocked it out of the park as well.
Awesome.
So proud Guncling moment. We have a Friday morning Beaver bite for you today. It's going to be a bit of a hodgepodge of stuff. Because being so busy with the show, I'm basically coming in from the show, removing the makeup, and dragging my tired beaver tail to bed. So there's been a whole lot less research.
I got a couple things.
But I have accumulated a lot of things, so we'll probably be having a little bit of a mishmash of stuff. So a potpourri day, if you would. But Mr. Grizzly, if you have a couple of things, sure.
Yeah, let me just share this one to begin with, and this is going to upset an awful lot of people. Trudeau diversified Canada's economy like no one before.
Yes, I'm glad you did that.
Unlike any of his peers in the developed world, the Prime Minister has managed to show his fellow citizens the benefits of immigration. And this is in Bloomberg, written by Matthew A. Winkler. Matthew Winkler, he's the editor-in-chief emeritus of Bloomberg News. He writes about markets. This is a learned man. He's not wet behind the ears. He is a veteran newsman. It seems like Canada has been in the news for all the wrong reasons lately. I'll pull this off the screen and just read it to you. The Bank of Canada was blamed for tanking global bond markets earlier this month when it unexpectedly raised the benchmark interest rates to the highest in 22 years. Then there's the toxic Martian-like haze from wildfires raging in British Columbia to Nova Scotia. And yet, these events obscure a more relevant reality, which is that Canada is booming like it never has before. Unprecedented population growth, record low unemployment, the most diversified economy in its 156-year history, and a world-beating stock market since 2021 are contributing to what 9 out of 10 economists say will be the best performer among the group of 7 developed countries by 2025. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who has been in his position since 2015, started the process of transforming the 8th largest economy from hidebound finance and fossil fuels to technology and other 21st century industries. Unlike most of his G7 peers, Trudeau welcomed immigrants after jumpstarting his successful campaign for office with a hitherto taboo declaration that it was time during a period of exceptionally low interest rates to boost public spending and invest in greater diversity, even if that meant tolerating budget deficits. His open door policy enabled Canada for the first time to expand by more than 1 million people, or 2.7% in 2022. The fastest growth among industrialized economies and a rate comparable to many African nations. International migration accounted for 95.9%, according to Stats Canada. So how is Skippy going to spin that? Because he's going to try. He will.
Of course he will. Well, here's the thing, because I'm glad you brought that up, because when I went on to my Twitter today, I'm going to share the screen with you, Mr. Grizzly.
Please.
This is literally the first thing I saw.
Oh, yeah. Just put this on here. You're going to have to blow that up.
I'm going to have to blow it up, but I wanted to show the full one because there's this one here, Eric Kuzmirzik, I hope I pronounced that correct, who's quoting the Bloomberg article, and right underneath, Bloomberg, but with a second article, which is an opinion piece. Want to see an economy that's successfully diversifying? Just look north. Canada's economy is winning and nobody realizes it.
Yeah, I was just about to point that out to you. Actually, I have that article here too.
You have the other one too?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah.
But
I
that
subscribe
was
to
the
Bloomberg.
first thing I saw.
Yeah, yeah. You know that's just going to have con heads exploding today. Well, con heads who see themselves as conservatives first, Canadians last, or if at all. Whereas I'm sure you will. Elizabeth May will find a reason to praise and say this is good news. Jagmeet Singh, I'm sure, will find something positive in this. Skippy will find a way to throw more hate and rage farming around because he's an asshole. Plain and simple.
That's just a declarative sentence.
Yeah.
It's not mean if it's true.
This statement here from Linda: we have to welcome immigrants. We don't have a birth rate nearly high enough to support our economy. I have been saying for the last 20 years this country would die without immigration.
Absolutely.
It would die without immigration. That's a fact. It's a verified fact. It's as simple as it is. Right now, every construction project in this country is behind schedule. Do you know why? Because there are not enough tradespeople to fill positions, which is oddly a good thing because unions are starting to make inroads in other trades that were not unionized, which means employees will be getting better pay and better working conditions.
Good.
And they can now choose which project they want to work on instead of having to take whatever scraps the wealthy would allow to fall off the table. So this is oddly a weird thing where for the first time in my life, employees have an upper hand in many respects. And this is not just in the trades or the construction industry. This is across all employment sectors, all of them. All of them.
Yep.
So we're in a very unique time here, but at the same token, you've still got people who are trying to, smash unions and create right to work, which means you have the right to work for whatever we're willing to pay you, and you have no say in it.
Yeah.
Like as in Texas, did you see this just the other day in Texas? It's a new law in the state of Texas where prior to this new law being enacted, every 4 hours employees were allowed to, on construction sites, were allowed to have a 10-minute water break, which is not nearly enough, if you ask me. Every 4 hours you get a 10-minute water break. What about, 2 15-minute breaks and a half-hour lunch at a minimum? No, every 4 hours you get a 10-minute water break. What are they working 12-hour shifts in the hot Texas sun where it's 110 to 112 degrees? Well, guess what? They've taken that away in the name of productivity. No more water breaks by law in the state of Texas. This just happened a few days ago. People will die. People have died in the past from heat exhaustion on the job site, but now they're going to die because they can't even stop to drink water. No breaks. Yeah. Late stage capitalism, my friends.
What?
You have to die for the meat grinder of an economy that we've created. I'm not making this up.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, that's not surprising. I mean, we did report, I believe, during the pandemic that there was a couple of weeks where there were people from the Republican side that were like testifying before Congress. Well, something to the effect like, well, I'm sure our seniors wouldn't mind going early in order to ensure that the future is better for their children. Just
Here it is.
it's like
I've got this
save your
right now.
children, throw yourself on the pyre.
Here it is. Texas Governor Greg Abbott approved a wide-ranging law last week that will eliminate mandated water breaks for some state construction workers beginning September 1st. There is not yet a federal standard to protect workers from dangerous heat conditions, and those in construction are especially vulnerable to heat-related risk. And this is from ABC News. New Texas law will get rid of water breaks for outdoor workers amid extreme heat. I'm not making this up. This is legit. I'll put a link to it in the chat here. There we go.
Jeez.
Boom. Yeah. So this is how ridiculous, and they're showing a live feed here. I'll blow this up so you can see it. If I can get it to pause. There we go. Blow this up, and let's just restart that. Come on. I need it to pause. It kept playing on its own. So this is what the state of Texas looks like right now. Look at the temperatures.
Whoa.
Basically, with the exception, Shreveport, that's Louisiana.
Yeah.
El Paso is the lowest temperature in the state of Texas at 94.
Jeez.
That would be about 35, folks. 37 is body temperature. For those of you who don't know what the difference is, 98.6 is equivalent to 37 degrees Celsius. So we're looking 42, 45, 50 degrees. And starting September 1st, you don't get a water break if you work outside in construction. So basically, fuck those people is what he's saying.
Damn.
Yeah.
So I love
it's like we have construction jobs are behind all across the country because there's not enough trades to fill positions, which means that people coming in can get a unionized position for better working conditions and better pay, which is great. And also, if they don't like it, they can just go to another construction site because there's tons of them up for grabs. But then you have people in positions of authority and power who do that at the same token.
Yep.
So it's like we're in the dumbest timeline.
Yep.
The dumbest.
This doesn't surprise me from Abbott specifically.
No.
I mean, he couldn't keep the power stations going on during a snowstorm. So,
because they disconnected from the national grid.
Yeah. Because nobody
You're on
messes
your own
with Texas except Mother Nature.
Guessing.
Right.
Yeah. So they're having extreme cold in the winter, and they've hit minus 20 last year and the year before that, which will kill a lot of people because they're not insulated for this. They're not prepared for this.
Well, that's exactly it. I think we talked about that too. I have friends in Texas. I've been there. I went for U.S. Thanksgiving. It's cold.
Yeah.
And especially in restaurants because they don't do the double door thing.
No, they don't. They don't.
Right?
We have to here because you freeze or melt. Right.
I was like going all the places like jackets and sweaters, and it's like, you're the Canadian. How are you cold? Like, trust.
I'm cold.
Like, we do cold outside,
not inside. Exactly.
Inside we're soft. Outside we can tough it in, but inside we're soft because we tough it outside.
Exactly. When I go inside, I want the creature comforts of home. What is wrong with that? Should be warm and comfortable. Well, when my buddy first moved here from Uruguay about 15 years ago, I said, that first winter must have damn near killed you. And he said, no. I go, what? He goes, dude, you have heat everywhere in this country. Everywhere you go, it's heated. Didn't have that in Uruguay. He goes, put on the right clothes, go outside in the cold, dress properly, you're fine. Come inside, it's nice and warm and toasty. I'm like, oh, I never realized that. Because we take it for granted. We take it for granted because
we're very lucky.
Well, we have to. We have to, or we'll die, right?
Yes. So yeah, you've got that great one on the economy, and you know what? Maybe we should, because we haven't had occasion to have him on yet, but maybe Scott. From Scott Trades.
Oh, from Hot Trades, yeah. Hot Wallet,
yeah,
sorry. Scott Trades from Hot Wallet, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Scott Trades is his Twitter account.
Yeah, his Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we
talk
get
a little economy.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea, actually.
That'd be a good idea. I mean, there's a lot of news about to come in the next 2 weeks. There's jobs numbers and GDP numbers, and the retail numbers just came out. So, yeah, it'd be maybe nice and introduce the kids to them. I'll reach out. See that. And then we have the Canada's economy is winning and nobody realizes it. Do you have anything in there for us? Because I got it up on my screen as well.
Hang on a sec.
Did you see anything?
Yeah, I've got it. I can bring it up.
Yeah.
Just a second here. I'll post it. 1 sec. Now, this is a Bloomberg opinion piece by Jessica Carl, and the way she writes it, I get a kick out of it. Today's agenda, bro. Justin Trudeau, he's a boss. And then they go on for other subjects. But Canada gets this bread. Canada is kind of like that one friend who was a hot mess. I'll just continue to read it while I'll take it off the screen here. Yeah. You can never pin her down because she's always trying to put out some sort of fire often of her own creation. She prefers tin fish over fresh fish. She has a strange obsession with baby crabs, and when she arrives 40 minutes late to after-work drinks, she tells your group, exasperated, "I almost drove into a feral super pig on my way here." Her outfit, which she tells you is made from post-industrial waste fiber, looks chic in an annoyingly effortless way. And even though you've known her for what feels like 156 years, you're still learning new stuff about her, like how she apparently can't swim and how Nickelback made her Spotify Wrapped last year. Her stories are borderline unbelievable, but you hang on to her every word. One time, an airport detected cocaine in her shampoo and she was wrongfully detained. Rumors has it that her dad was involved in a 14-year hot dog bun price fixing scheme, and her mom recently won a conch shell blowing contest in Key West while on vacation. A lot of people say she has a big mouth, but deep down, Canada is just misunderstood. Sure, she have made her mortgage payment with a credit card last month, but she's actually taking home fatter paychecks, or what is it Skippy always says? Powerful paychecks. Than all her G7 friends. Looks can be deceiving. And I'm going to put this graphic up on the screen so you can see it. And I will blow it up a bit so you can see it a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Canada's growth set to beat peer countries. The economy is projected to expand at the fastest pace among G7 next year. 1.5% growth for 2023 and 2024. Look at France. France's was 0.7%, and they're expected to hit 1.3 for 2024. Germany, they were in negative 0.1%. Italy, 0.7, 0.8. Japan is 1.3 this year, so they're a little behind us, but pretty close. The UK, that's minus 0.3. The US, actually, they were 1.6% last year, so they were ahead of us by a 0.1 percentage point.
That's this year.
This year, sorry, and next year it's at 1.1%. So Canada's embrace immigration as a value. 7 in 10 signal support, the largest majority ever recorded. Disagree with the statement. Overall, there's too much immigration in Canada. Like, what is it? 65%. No, sorry, it is higher than that. Let me get that thing there. Come on. 69% disagree with the statement that there's too much immigration in Canada.
Yeah. I keep on saying there are more of us.
Yeah, there are. There are.
We have
there are more of us.
We have the number. 69 to 31.
We know.
Right there.
We know. It's no secret. This nation would die without immigration.
And that's not saying that the 31% that say that there's too much have a problem with immigrants.
No.
To say that there's too much. So there's 69% of us that say there isn't too much. And of that 31, there's probably a good portion that have no problem with it. But are maybe thinking, like, for example, as we mentioned, if our housing policy is not going to be matching with our immigration policy, something's going to go snap at some point.
Which I could see somebody going, that might make them make the comment that there's too much immigration in that respect. Doesn't mean they're anti-immigration or that they're racist or hateful or any of that. That doesn't mean any of that. They might be just greatly concerned about the housing crisis, which is not just coming, it's here.
It's here. So, but when you add that portion to the other, it's like there are way more of us than there are of them. Oh, yeah. Way more. So, right? You just got to use your voice. You just got to speak up.
And meanwhile,
you just got to not be that good person who does nothing.
To counter that, we have this chuckle. I'm gonna drop the expletive. This chuckle. This person on the Twitter. Can Exit Movement 2.0, supporting peaceful, lawful, and democratic movements to exit Canada in its current form. Canada is a broken country. It's time to go our own way. Sure. And they're leaving in ice cream trucks.
Well, here's my can exit. What is Canada exiting from?
This is what I don't get. The best economy in the G7?
No. I mean, Brexit. Britain is exiting from Europe. The UK.
Yeah.
Wexit. The West is exiting from what can exit? What are we exiting from?
North America. No, we can't do that because, unlike Britain, which is an island that's not attached to Europe, because the UK is not part of the European
But like a
continent.
province can pull out of a country.
Mm-hmm.
A city can pull out of a province. If it that's an exit. A country pulls out of what?
You can't. We're not dealing with the brightest bulbs in the Christmas tree here.
Fork, you're dumb.
Yeah.
My head hurts.
So if I say I don't want to pick on people. I don't believe in picking on people.
No,
but we don't know. This is not a person. It's just an arrow with a Canadian flag in it.
Yeah.
At Can Exit Movement on Twitter. So if you want to, feel free to drop them a line and tell them in polite terms, you're being ridiculous. You're not making any sense. This is nonsensical and it's not achievable. Now, if this person wants to exit Canada, the only way they could conceivably do it is if we give all the treaty lands back to the Indigenous peoples, which is interesting. I don't know how that would work.
Oh, man. All right. So we have the 7 and 10 embrace immigration as a value. Is there anything else does the article end there?
Just a second here. Which article was it? Was it the winning under? Oh yeah, Canada's winning under Justin Trudeau. Nobody else. I had tabs open here, so I needed to find it. Where is it? Oh, that's good. Oh, and the page is not loading for some reason now. Just when I need it to load, it won't load.
Oh, I happen to have it.
Oh my goodness. Do you have it? Yeah, because it's not loading for me for some reason.
Yeah, I found it. I got it. Okay.
Go ahead.
Plus, she's not cliquey at all. In her social circle, everyone is welcome, even these geese. And then that's when you had the Canada embraces immigration as a value. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is her boss, and even though she likes to call him Little Potato behind his back, he has certainly been a positive influence in her life. Under his mentorship, business is booming like it never was before, Matthew writes, noting that Canada is experiencing, quote, unprecedented population growth, recording record low unemployment, quote, and a world-beating stock market. If that's what a hot mess express looks like, then I'm all aboard. Underneath the questionable rap, it's clear that Canada is doing a lot of stuff right. Read the whole thing.
It takes you to an article. Yeah, it takes you to the other article that we cited earlier.
Yeah.
It's this one from Miss Sadeka. I'm going to post this on the screen here. They're already losing their shit over that one.
Yep.
You do realize it was named the Ottawa River Parkway for about 60 years before Prime Minister Stephen Harper renamed it the Sir John A. Macdonald Parkway. He just did it. It's NCC controlled lands and property, and he just went and renamed it without consulting with the NCC, because that's what he did, because that's what an actual dictator does, people. They don't consult with committees, they just do it. Anyway, the people are losing their shit on that.
Yeah, they're renaming it. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's going to be renamed Kichizibi-Mikan.
Yes, which is it's effectively, and it's they're kind of going back to the Ottawa River Parkway, because it's basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but that's effectively what it means.
Mm-hmm. According to this article from the CBC, it says Indigenous people have called for a new name for years. Ottawa city councillors along the roadway joined them in 2021, and in January of this year, the NCC's board voted to change the name. Earlier this month, the CEO said the new name was chosen after consulting Algonquin people. Mikan, is pronounced Mikan, is an Algonquin word meaning road or path. Kichizibi means Great River and is the Algonquin name for what would later be called the Ottawa River. So there you go. You were right, Mr. Grizzly. The name change is effective immediately, according to the NCC Media Relations. Signs will be changed, and staff told board members Thursday the name will be officially unveiled at an event on September 30th, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. There you go. Albert Dumont, an Algonquin spiritual advisor from Kitikan Zibi Anishinaabe. Sorry, Anishinaabe.
Mm-hmm.
Am I pronouncing it?
Anishinaabe.
Anishinaabe. I think there's an extra
Yeah, I know.
syllable there. I think I'm pronouncing it wrong.
It's not pronounced, though. It's Anishinaabe.
Okay. Kitikan Zibi Anishinaabe First Nation, north of Ottawa, has been one of the leading advocates for changing the name and organized a protest about it on September 30th last year. And he said earlier this week that it's going to feel good hearing the replacement. Quote, "My heart will be glad every time," he told the CBC's Haley Cotnam. "I've got to say it was truly painful to hear it so much every day, how the road conditions are and traffic in the morning. The Algonquin area is unceded Algonquin territory, and the river parkway runs along is integral to Algonquin life. I heard a woman from Manitoba say one time that the Oldman River in Manitoba was as much of her identity as the blood in her veins," Dumont said. "That's how the Algonquins feel about this river here. It really is." So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've effectively brought it back to its original name, Ottawa River Parkway, in a roundabout method using Anishinaabe people, Algonquin people's language, which I think is, a little more appropriate, don't you?
I'm down with that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I don't not know who took this picture. Oh, Dennis Bebe, I'm guessing. But damn.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you go down to the banks of the Ottawa River, as I do in the summertime quite frequently, and it's not easy to access because the parkway kind of cuts it off.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a complication there. But you'll go down and if you walk along the banks, oftentimes you will see people have built inukshuks, and there are dozens of them throughout the Ottawa River in shallow banks. You'll see them all the time. So yeah, if you ever make it down there, you'll take some pictures. I've shot many photos over the course of the last 30 years, and it's pretty awesome. Not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta get some more coffee, so I'll be right back. Apologies, I'm really low on the caffeine today.
No worries. I by the way, Kits, I saw the there was a comment about Mateo being a bigger grown-up than Pee-Pee. There we go. Mateo just made a big sand mess in the living room, tipped his boots over, but guess what? He's more grown than Pee-Pee. He's cleaning it up without crying. That's my man, Mateo. That's the way to be. Good thing. If you make a mess, you clean it up. Good on you. Good on you. All right. Let's see. There's been a lot. First of all, Parliament has adjourned. So we had the passage of a few bills just to get it done under the wire. Closure was invoked a couple of times, of course, to make sure that happened. But we will be given the gift until sometime in September, hopefully, of no more pee-pee clips from the House of Commons. Of course, that means we are going to be treated to more pee-pee clips of him stealing Rick Mercer's act and pointing his fingers in our face a lot. He seems to like to do that. Oh well. We are going to get a little bit of a break, however, with the adjournment. And I don't know why they keep on saying this. It's silly season. The last 2 weeks of Parliament, people starts going crazy and blah, blah, blah. It's like, there's no need for people to start acting weird just because there's a deadline coming. Just be grown-ups. Now, of course, as we've mentioned many times, there is a talk of a shuffle that probably was scheduled for this fall. That will probably be happening this summer. I'd say probably in July. Word on the tweet is that the Prime Minister has already been checking with people, see whether or not they'd like to run again.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Because
if they're not... Well, I'm thinking he wants to do just one more before an election. I'm thinking he's hoping that he will not have reason to have to shuffle again, even if it goes till 2025, because he would like to go in with a team that's been in place for maybe about a year or two and that has proven itself. So my thinking is that he would like to just do this once. That's so. there's this clip. There's these two clips, actually. And there's this lady named Kim. I can't remember her last name off the top of my head now. Kim Wright. She's a principal with Wright Strategies. And I'm going to be showing you two clips. One is just her, and she's talking about the potential cabinet shuffle. And I think it'll be obvious why I like her style. Okay. But then in the second clip there, we are going to talk about what's going on with the rapporteur. And there's a intervention from each of one. There's three panelists. And I wanted to pick just Kim's because, again, she knocked it out of the park. But the three actually have some really, really cool things. And I wanted to put it out there because I think it is a good demonstration how when you have a representative from each one, because they're not from each of the parties, because they're from consulting groups. So they're sort of like spokespeople in a way, right? But they each come from a perspective. So there's each one from each one of these perspectives. And you can tell very clearly which one is which from the response. But they all do about as good as they really could do with what they've got, considering there's a lot of BS being shoveled. So I actually thought it was quite interesting. So the first one, let's go for it. This is about the cabinet shuffle.
Okay.
And this one made me smile.
Just a sec. There we go.
Here we go.
All right, Kim, let me hear from you. Who are some names you would expect to see either elevated or relegated in the next few weeks?
Look, if I were Mary Ng, I'd be sending Marco Mendocino a whole bouquet of flowers and maybe a bottle of wine because he has certainly taken the heat off of her ill-advised performance over the last several months. But definitely Marco Mendocino is going to have to be out. There's going to have to be that political head on a pike, in particular for the Bernardo affair and the lack of movement. I would also say that Bill Blair is probably also well overdue to be pushed out of cabinet. If you look at the Johnston report, that the fact that he couldn't figure out his email portals, that's not exactly instilling confidence in a government. There'll certainly be lots of other questions as to whether or not Minister Boissonnault gets a promotion. He has certainly been out doing the heavy hitting for this government and is probably in line for a promotion. But this does need to be a bit of a reset for them if they are going to look to show that they learned any lessons from the disasters that we've seen over the last few months. Again, Mary Ng, Minister Pascal and the Hockey Canada saga, and how those things have unfolded. You can't just give it all to Chrystia Freeland and hope that it all works out. That's just not how this is going to work.
Okay. Understand why I like her style?
Oops, I had myself on mute there. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Take no prisoners.
Well, and, right, Mary Ng, did we call it?
Oh, yeah.
Mendocino, did we call it?
Yes.
Ouellette, we haven't spoke about it so much, but she's been not very effective.
No,
on
definitely
the sports
not.
I mean, Freeland can't do it all. Wow. She just, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's, and then of course,
that happened.
Mary Ng should send Mendocino some flowers and maybe a bottle of wine. Yeah, absolutely. So I just thought that one was particularly good, and Boissonnault, her mention of Boissonnault, remembered there was a whole interview that he did with Hurley Burley that we took like several clips from because he was just ridiculously good Like, and you were like listening to him, right? And there's been other instances. Seamus O'Regan had an interview with the hurly-burly, which he also knocked it out of the park. And again, recently I've seen some tweets where he was addressing something with regard to Pride Week, and somebody said, "Well, somebody just like start the leadership race now and like put this guy in it," because I mean, you hear him talk because he's very engaging and he knows his stuff. He really does know his stuff, just like Boissonneau does. And Omar Al-Gabra, for all the crap he's been taken because he's had the transport file and, with COVID and travel coming back and then airlines doing what they did, selling flights.
And then blaming him for the airline's mistakes, right?
Well, he handled all of that. Right. Yesterday, a little bit with the help of Karina Gold as well, with the passport offices now. All the passports are like within 7 to 10 days, and now they're announcing the opening of regional offices. There's like 4 in Quebec, and I think like 7 or 11 of them they're throughout Canada or something. But everything's on time. Yes, there was a mess. It got cleaned up. Just let them quietly do their work, and they did it, and they got it right. So, and he too, his interview was absolutely amazing. He knows he's on top of it. He knows his file. And we didn't grab any clips of that one, but there are some really impressive people. Like this, and Minister Anand, as impressed as we are with her, when you hear a long form interview with her where she actually gets to speak and like say do politics in full sentences, she'll knock your socks off as well.
Oh yeah.
I don't think there's anything she's done that hasn't impressed us yet. Right?
She's what do the kids say? Kicking ass and taking names
and handing out lollipops.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of quality in that cabinet. Miss Adeka, Douglas, the way the sun is shining on you. I know, isn't it wonderful? It's like I listen to Tyra Banks. She says, "Find your light." There you go. So yeah, and there are some weaker performers and people that should probably go. So everybody has their focus on Mendocino, but I personally don't think that Ng should get a free pass because Mendocino made himself a bigger target. Ouellet has not been particularly effective. Sajan hasn't been particularly effective. And there are people that deserve some promotions. Karina Gould deserves a promotion. Sean Fraser deserves a promotion. Al-Gabra does deserve a promotion, but he'll probably remain in transport because he's done probably all the heavy lifting he wants to do for the next while. He probably needs a bit of a break, more than a promotion.
Maybe a little bit.
No. Trust me, I'm good here. I've put out all the fires. Let me stay here for a while now, please. I could see that. There is some speculation, people wondering. Now, I don't know if this is just speculation, to cut down some trees and spill some ink, but will the Prime Minister keep Freeland at finance? Given the Prime Minister says that he does intend on running again, does Freeland intend on waiting yet another 4 years with potentially less chance of being Prime Minister? Because if governments typically don't get a 4th term, a 5th. So that is a question, wondering if she'll stay on for the ride. If she doesn't, it would give an opportunity to promote Anand or François-Philippe Champagne, who's also been very, very good. He doesn't get a lot of press. Well, he gets a lot of press when he gets the industry stuff, and he's a little Energizer bunny. But I mean, he's not up front sometimes as much as any others, unless there's like a big deal signed. But them two could be a potential new people at finance if he wanted to do like a really fresh face reset and give Freeland another file, maybe foreign affairs or something.
That's a good question. I don't know what they're going to do exactly.
Yeah. So, but I'm pretty sure my vibe would be is that he would want to do one cabinet shuffle only. Like this, and then go into the next election, whether it's in 1 year, whether it's in 2, with that team. The more experienced, the better. So we'll see what happens. Now, the second thing is with the rapporteur. And remember, Skippy was fighting for 2 things. One was for the budget to be completely revamped to how he would have passed a budget.
900 amendments.
And he was, for some reason, he's still not standing in Parliament talking.
Thought he was going to filibuster.
Yeah. Oh, you know what the thing about that was?
What?
Turns out he knew. He announced his little filibuster thing. It wasn't he announced the filibuster and then the government said, oh, yeah, we're invoking closure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to shut that down. No. Parliament had already passed the motion. And then he went out and said, I'm going to talk and talk.
So he just
He
grandstanded.
already knew he already had 5 hours.
He was just grandstanding.
Total grandstanding. That's even worse, right?
Yeah.
Because you can say, I'm going to grandstand. And Parliament goes, you know what? No, I'm going to shut you down. It's like, okay, at least you tried.
Yeah.
But you didn't even try. It was passed before. What a freaking loser.
Well, you got to wonder, like, so I got to go out there for 5 hours. I got a tee off time. And
he's really, really treating his followers. See, this is the thing, right? The people who are following him and the people who follow like the Rupas and the Andy Lees and all like this, right? Just like you do for us, you place your trust in us.
Yes.
Right? Everybody's most precious commodity is their time. And in a world of 500,000 channels, Lord knows how many now that everybody's a content producer these days, where you spend your time is a huge gift. And if you keep coming back and you keep coming back, then you're placing your trust in certain people. That should not be abused. That should not be abused. It should not be a situation like it should not. This show, for example, should not be a situation. Let's say if we're still on air in 5 years, and all of a sudden, there's 10,000 or 20,000 people listening daily instead of like 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's not then license for us to take that and say, okay, we've got 20,000.
Let's mess with them. No, we're never going to do that. Never.
Right?
Never. Mark my words. Write it down. We'll never do that. We will never take any viewer for granted, and we will never use or abuse you, and we will never treat you like you're idiots. We will never do that because we know better. We won't take advantage of people. That's not who we are, and we will never be that way, which is why we always ask you to provide us with corrections if we make a mistake, because we're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
We're human.
Well, we're critters.
You're a critter.
It's pronouns.
I'm an apex predator.
Okay. That's fine. I don't mind that. We're good. I'm cute.
I'm crusty.
You can get far on cute.
I'll be surly.
Don't knock it. All right. So the second thing is the rapporteur thing. I'm just going to let this one run. So this, for me, is a perfect example. You'll be able to tell very clearly who the conservative is, who the representative, because they're strategists, they're hired. So whose client is the conservative, whose client is the NDP, and whose client is the Liberal. But again, wait for Kim. Because I like her. I've never seen her before, but I like her. All right, Mr. Grizzly, let's do this.
Happy to. I just need to.
All right, I'll just put it up right there.
Okay.
And here we go.
Okay, let's turn to another story that continues to be a big story this week, which is foreign interference and the talks between the government and the opposition parties unfolding on what a public inquiry might look like. Conservatives are telling the government, call a public inquiry, and then we'll suggest names and terms of reference. This is a bit of a different approach than what the other opposition parties are doing. So, Josie, why do you think Mr. Poilievre has chosen that as his posture?
Okay, now before we get to our answer, different?
Mm-hmm.
No, not different. The NDP and the Bloc are doing it a certain way because that's the way it's done, and that's the parliamentary tradition.
Right.
This is not different. This is, this is deliberately not choosing not to row in the same direction as the rest of the team. Okay, so let's just clear that little bit of BS there. All right, now let's get to the answers.
Well, I think it's important to note that it's not just Mr. Poilievre who's called for public inquiry. It's all party leaders with the exception of Justin Trudeau. So I think, reiterating that he wants to hear those words from the government side before, we do all this work that you may shoot down is a fair place for them to start at. And it's important to not get lost in this, that there has been months wasted. The government has spent the entire spring session avoiding calling that public inquiry. So I really think in order to get all parties on side, and they've agreed to do the work, the government has to start by saying, we are taking this seriously and we are ready to call this public inquiry and let's all get to work. And I think that's the important next step that needs to come in the coming days.
Okay. That's about as good as you can do. The PR guy in me is, I would be pissed off at Poilievre for dumping that turd on my doorstep, but she polished that about as good as you can without veering into huge BS. Everything she said there was true. Right? You hear them with a true,
but there's always a but.
Right? But that's about as good. That's actual spin. Not BS. That's actual PR spin. She's doing her job very well. That's about as good as you can do with that. Right? Saying he's not the only one that's calling. It's true. All three parties have called for it. Right? And, yes, the government has wasted a lot of time. Yes. I mean, of course, if this was a rope-a-dope strategy, of course, it's not a waste of time. Right? That's the temporary hit you're taking for the long-term gain. Strategically, that is.
Right.
Sometimes that's the battle you're choosing to lose in order to win the war. Right. It's a strategy you put out there. You're going to get punched in the face a couple of times, but overall you'll get the win. Right. And then, saying that, and then trying to do some preemptive framing that, this is the important thing. We need to get a commitment that the government won't take all this work that they're asking us to do and throw it away.
Yeah.
Yes. but it never occurred to the other two parties to do it this way. Right? So that's where you're taking something that sounds, after the fact, taking something that sounds reasonable and justifying it, right? Because we know this is not why they're doing this. Because we know if the Prime Minister said, okay, we're going to commit to doing an inquiry, they'll find just the next thing that's wrong. Because I called this. I called this.
Oh, yeah.
That they would find some way to either obstruct or just be unhelpful. Well, they're not obstructing. They're just not lifting a damn finger to do anything to help. They've gone limp. Like trying to pick up a sleeping cat. Has no spine. Just that's what they're just laying there as dead weight and saying, yeah. But foreign interference is really, 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 really critical, and we really need to do something about it now. And we need to have an election now, really, to do that before we do anything to fix foreign interference. That's the so clearly foreign interference is really not that important now. I mean, right? All right.
Okay, well, Kim, I'll get you to weigh in next because, again, we do have this different approach between what the Conservatives have said, what the Bloc Québécois has put forward, and what Jagmeet Singh and the NDP has been saying, publicly at least, about a public inquiry. What's your sense of how the opposition leaders have been handling this?
Well, Jagmeet Singh has been saying publicly, privately, and everywhere in between that there needs to be a comprehensive public inquiry that looks at all of the foreign interference actors, not just China, although that is the most pressing, but what has Russia been up to, other actors. And what is the government doing about that? He's been very consistent from the beginning. So he has been open and willing to have those discussions, to move those forward, because Canadians deserve the answer. Parliamentarians need to know what is being done to protect their safety as well as the safety of our elections. And I think everyone on this panel can agree that this whole charade of whether we'd call it an inquiry or not has gone on far too long. This could have been done and over with by now practically, but here the government has continued to drag its feet and not doing proper vetting. This has been such an unforced error that I think that, as I said, New Democrats have been very clear. They want a public inquiry and Canadians deserve one.
Again, nothing wrong.
No.
Right? And boom, bam. Now, of course, right? You can you can quibble, right? But on the whole, it's sound from an NDP perspective. This is, and Mr. Singh has been having many statesmanship moments by virtue of the fact that Oliver's been saying, "Hold my beer," and Bloc Québécois is saying, "Yeah, we'll be helpful," and they just keep on suggesting names of people who have even more ties than Johnston did, for the most part,
which is hilarious.
I know. Well, that's
own
what
goal,
we're saying, right?
Own goal.
Who's this unicorn? Who is this unicorn that we keep on saying like this?
It's impossible.
Try to do better than David Johnston now.
Yeah, it's impossible, and it's impossible
especially
because
after having
they all know one another.
Especially after having created an environment where everybody knows what's going to happen to them, as was the person's named, right? Okay, so now the last one, this one, it's going to be obvious to everyone why I love this. So here we go.
All right, Susan, what are your thoughts on this in terms of the government's perspective and the government's timeline of how they've been talking to the opposition and putting the onus on the opposition last week and this week?
Well, there were stumbles, obviously, at the outset on this. There's no question. But the government has signaled that it will sit down with the opposition and negotiate the terms and the people who will be part of the go forward process on this. And 3 out of the 4 parties are participating. The Bloc is at the table, the NDP are at the table, the Liberals at the table, and the Conservatives are grandstanding again. So if Pierre Poilievre is super serious about wanting to get something done, then he should sit down at the table and have the conversation and move so that the terms of reference can be decided and a process can be put in place. I heard Minister LeBlanc at a news conference say, this is working in terms of moving ahead because it's not being negotiated in public. And Pierre Poilievre, as he usually does, wants to go public, pound on a table, and think he can get a result. And one sooner or later, he's going to have to act like a grown-up or send an emissary who can act like a grown-up so that the things can be discussed in a normal way, that they can get someone significant to come forward who will be treated with respect and dignity and not excoriated in the political process as we get to a response and we can reassert and reaffirm Canadians' confidence in our democratic system. There's no question, all the parties agree that there was no impact on the last election, but there's been some nonsense going on from a foreign interference perspective. We need to get to the bottom of it, but the nonsense has to stop on the opposition side, get down to brass tacks, get it done, and get the process rolling.
Okay, we have.
So again, 3 perspectives. All 3 of them did about as good as they can do. All 3 of them have a little to it, but pretty much this.
Oh, this is interesting.
People doing. Oh,
Dan
oh
T.
well, he
coming. coming in hot with that
read
one.
Read it out loud, Mr. Grizzly.
I say, this is from Dan T, one of the viewers. I say, why don't we have the inquiry run by the Indigenous community? What could Pierre Poliver possibly say about that? I'm like, oh boy.
You are just like handing him you're just like putting out bait for him to hang himself, aren't you?
Yes. I like that idea. We'll get the national, well, all the chiefs, maybe like a consortium, right? With Cassidy Caron in there, and oh man, that's a good one, Dan.
Yeah, he would never go for that.
No, he wouldn't. But
he would never.
But you know what? What if Jugmeat, Elizabeth May, and Justin Trudeau said, "Yeah, we're on board with that." That's 3-1. And Blanchette would probably. I know.
That means nothing to them.
Yeah. Majority rule.
What they did to David Johnston.
Oh yeah.
This was their guy. They ate him alive.
Yep.
And they picked their teeth with his bones. It was brutal. It was brutal what they did to that man. So, but yeah. Something's gonna have to happen because we're in a situation now where we don't have an ethics commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a brand new RCMP commissioner. And we don't have anybody at the moment looking at election interference after everybody said now that it's a really, really big deal that we absolutely need to do it. Right? We've like whipped everybody up into a fervor about it.
Mm-hmm.
But now now we don't want to get security clearance to be exposed to the intelligence. And now we don't want to name names now that the thing that you asked for, the public inquiry, looks like it might be happening.
We just want to investigate Beijing. Just Beijing. You mean China? Beijing's a city. I don't think the city had anything to do with it.
I mean, at some point.
Yeah.
At some point you got to say this is just not serious. This is just not serious. And on that file as well, we didn't mention it, but I don't know if it means anything, but Sam Cooper, one of the reporters at Global who broke the story, is no longer with Global.
Yeah, I wonder why.
I'm not sure what the official version is, but he's left and he's with something called the Bureau. I'm not sure if it's something that he started or something else, but he's pursuing the story from that place, that outlet at the moment. So again, I don't know if he was asked to leave or if he did leave on his own or because that lawsuit
I don't know what the
seem to be
story
going
is
forward.
James may know.
James may know.
James may know because he's in touch with Sam.
Sam Cooper is gone. Has left. So yeah, it's
James is in the chat. Let us know.
Yeah. I really don't know what to think on this file anymore. I mean, we literally have people like Dick Fadden and Reg Alcock and Michelle Katsuya, Juno Katsuya, who are all intelligence people and saying like there's only very limited stuff to be gained by full public inquiry. And then you have the other perspective that, well, at least a public inquiry does have the power of subpoena and the power to compel, and both sides having a legal representation defending it, making the case, and it seems more formal. And then I see that the whole national security thing and absolutely wanting to keep things, not wanting to reveal sources and methods and putting people in danger, right? So this is not an easy one. Objectively, like my first instinct was, yeah, we probably don't need a public inquiry for this. Maybe a judicial review, maybe something. Not against the public inquiry, right? I mean, whatever road's going to get us there at this point. But yeah, ultimately, my fear about a public inquiry is that because there's so much that would not be able to be told. And yes, there are ways to do all that kind of stuff. And so we did it with Maher Harar and all that kind of stuff. Yes. There are ways to do that, but it just opens the door because we know we got a shit gibbon. That, oh, there's another cover up. Oh, more evidence of a cover up, more evidence. And just the constant drumbeat, the constant erosion of confidence.
Well, he also refuses to get the security clearance required to look at the files, because if he does that, he has no more ammunition. But he uses the excuse of Justin Trudeau will just come in and stamp it top secret, and then I can't talk about it. And that's not how it fucking works.
Yeah. So my thinking as in PNC and Bio does it here, says NSICOP or whatever seems like a good option. The NSICOP and NSIRA committee members are reviewing all those documents in the annex that the Governor General asked, the Special Rapporteur in this capacity, asked the Prime Minister and Cabinet to waive confidence on, and they have. So at some point, these two committees are going to report back. So, and that will create another pressure point. And if they do report that back, that, they pretty much agree with what the Special Rapporteur said, because he did say, I invite any reasonable person to come and look at this. Well, not any reasonable person, but, if any reasonable person looked at this, they'd come to the same conclusion. I invite the people that can get cleared. Not any reasonable person.
Get shot across the bow there, good sir.
Yes. So, I mean, there are some people looking at, I guess, and Jagmeet Singh, if he can get some assurances about or clarification on how he can speak publicly about what he does see, which I think is a responsible thing, right? I'm willing to do this, but you need to give me clarity on what it is. I mean, if Pierre is saying that you're trapped, and that's the other thing too, Jagmeet Singh in this instance, even though it looks like he's being a fly in the ointment, he's actually helping. Because if he's saying he's willing to go and get the clearance to see those documents, but first wants some assurances about that he'll be able to talk about what he's seen in a certain capacities, know what the limits are so he doesn't violate anything, because that's not his objective by any way, in any sense. And I don't get that sense at all. But he does want to be able to comment back on what he says, make sure that there's a feedback to the public after having seen it. And what are the conditions? Well, if he gets those conditions, well, now why can't PP adhere to them? If you think of it 2 steps down the road, so Jagmeet gets his conditions. He says, okay, I could get that. Well, PP says, well, I'm going to be muzzled. Well, Jagmeet doesn't feel he's going to be muzzled because he went and got assurances. You grandstanded. He went and got assurance. He followed the process and went and got assurances. So now there's a process for speaking. Now, are you going to join in? And let's say the NSICOP and NSRA both come up with their evaluations on 2 different dates. That creates 3 strategic date points coming up in the future where he's going to be asked again and again. I'm not sure what he's got prepared for that. Those are not going to be comfortable days for him.
I have some breaking news here.
Okay.
We're still in. This is still Canadian politics, but we're going to pivot back to New Brunswick for a few minutes. You remember the dramatic resignation last week by?
Oh, did it happen?
Hang on, I can see her face. I can't think of her name right now. She resigned.
Dorothy Shepherd.
Thank you.
Dorothy
Shepherd resigned mid-statement. While he was making his speech, she wrote a handwritten note, slapped it on his desk, and walked out. Well, 4 former presidents of the PC party have just released a statement calling on Blaine Higgs to resign as leader. Gets better. Trevor Holder is resigning from Higgs' cabinet. Trevor Holder, his resignation is a big deal. He's the longest-serving MLA in the legislature and has been in the cabinet of 3 PC premiers. He's never been about the drama. Until last week, he's been a loyal soldier, at least publicly, the ultimate party stalwart. And I do have, let me just pull it up. I've got his resignation here. And he's spelling it out in no uncertain terms. He's like, this is not cool. And I'll read it, but I'll flash it on the screen here for a second. It's probably too small for anybody to see. So I'll read it so that the people who are listening to the audio only version will understand what we're talking about. And he says, June 23rd, 2023, I entered public life more than a quarter of a century ago. I have had the honor and privilege of receiving a mandate from the constituents of my riding for 7 straight elections. That is a responsibility I have never taken lightly. It is a very diverse riding comprised of citizens of all backgrounds, socially, culturally, and economically. I have learned far more from my constituents than they have ever learned from me. It is my job to understand them in order to defend their interests in the Legislative Assembly. This is a progressive conservative speaking, folks. It is my fundamental belief that understanding your constituents is the primary responsibility of every member of the House and being able to bridge the concerns of all citizens to find common ground. I have believed since I was a young person that the Progressive Conservative Party was the best vehicle by which to drive change in our province. Having campaigned in a very early age for Premier Richard Hatfield, I have dedicated my entire life to this party and ultimately the province as a result. I have served in the cabinet of 3 separate premiers. I have always fought for my constituents within a party and caucus structure. My respect for that process has led to better results for my community and my province, until recently. Under the leadership of Premier Higgs, caucus has been less about consensus and more about him getting his own way. While I have tried my best to continue to work to maintain the integrity of the caucus system, I have finally come to the conclusion that this is no longer possible. On several occasions, I have sat down with Mr. Higgs to explain and instill in him the importance of working more collaboratively with the caucus and offered whatever help and instill in him the importance of whatever help might be needed in that regard. Unfortunately, this offer to help has simply been met with nothing but more frequent caucus meetings where he simply tells us his position and that if we don't agree with him, then we don't have the resolve needed for the job. With all due respect, sincerely disagreeing with Mr. Higgs, be it myself or any member of his caucus, is not demonstrating a lack of resolve, but simply having a position different than his. His lack of empathy, as well as his inability to listen to a valid concerns of all members of his caucus, demonstrates a further inability to lead the citizens of New Brunswick. No one has a monopoly on wisdom. The party is greater than any one person. I have always believed that those of us in public life are called to serve something greater than ourselves, and that we have a social responsibility to leave this community better than we found it. That was what I was raised to believe, and that is what I hope my children and those that come after me remember me for. After long, careful consideration this week, I have arrived at the decisions that I can no longer serve in a cabinet under Blaine Higgs. It is my full intention to continue as a member for Portland Simmons and honor the commitment that I have made to my constituents. This decision has not been taken lightly. However, for the reasons stated above, I now find myself in a position where I need to do some significant soul searching after a 24-year legislative career. I would ask the public and the media to allow me some time and space for this reflection to take place. I would encourage my party to continue its own soul searching. We need to build a thoughtful conservative movement in this province that brings people together rather than divide them. I hope and pray that this is possible. Trevor A. Holder, MLA, Portland Simmons. Now that, my friends, is how you do it.
Damn.
Yeah. Like, that, again, that is a progressive conservative. This is the type of person we want to represent a conservative party in this country. Now, he's in, the Legislative Assembly for the province of New Brunswick. This is what we need federally, because we don't have that type of leadership. We don't have progressive conservatives running the current crop of conservatives in this country. And we need to bring it back to that, because having a strong, healthy conservative party is good for our democracy. We haven't had it since 2000 and 3. But this man, like, we're talking about the guy who was he was the anchor of the party, and he's like, nope, I'm out. Everybody is leaving. Blaine Higgs has dug his own grave.
But isn't this interesting that, right? Pallister imploded while he had a majority. Kenney imploded while he had a majority. Higgs is imploding while he has a majority. It's like, it seems like the best way to get a conservative leader to go is either to lose an election to a liberal or to actually give them a majority.
The thing is, though,
this will be 3 conservative governments where a person has a majority and they can't finish their term.
You do have to consider, though, that the difference between Jason Kenney and this is Jason Kenney was ousted out of the party because he was not oddly enough. He wasn't crazy enough, right? Whereas in this instance, people are bailing because this guy is like, this is not who we are in this province. Right. We don't want this. We're not going to stand for this. So these are people who are leaving for the right reasons. These are people who are going to fall his government for the right reason. In Jason Kenney's case, he wasn't crazy enough. And he even said so.
Yeah, but he fed that his entire career up until the moment where he talked about it was that.
Own fault. Yeah. Yeah.
He was
built a house of matchsticks.
Right? I mean, he and Pierre together, I mean, like before Pierre got much of the spotlight, I mean, he was always pretty much dickish, but like Kenney was the loudmouth. Right? I mean, come on. I know that's the thing with these conservative people. I mean, even Aaron O'Toole, okay, like on the exit, you know, and listen, he's really milking that exit tour.
Oh boy,
he's appearing everywhere. Right.
Well, he's probably trying to line up his next gig, but he's got his golden parachute pension, right? So,
but I don't think you can start collecting it before you're 65 yet. I think so.
No, you can't, and he's young enough that he's still working, right?
Yeah,
he's younger than me.
But this whole thing that, you know, I was in it, I contributed to it. I mean, even this guy who's stepping aside, and even, you know, Dorothy Shepherd, you know, these people have way too much patience. Is what I'll say. Because she was saying like I've been trying like for over a year to make it. Like
too much patience, yeah. But they've been in government for a long time, so they understand that, you know, it's the slow moving, incremental.
I get it, you know, and they are personal relationships, and but it's just like
it is a difficult decision, and I can understand that for these people because you know.
Yeah, you know what? That you're right. That's me being too harsh.
Yeah, it's okay.
Like, we don't care when you arrive, so long as you arrive.
Right.
But that this one man is going to be so arrogant. And that's the thing with Kenney too. Even though he was ousted, it was still the arrogance. Right? And then at one point he realized that he lost control of the monster. And then he made the comment about the asylum, you know, the inmates wanting to run the asylum. But
well, then they are now.
But it was arrogance. I mean, we saw it in the COVID, right? The best summer ever. Like this, or the Christmas thing.
Yeah.
Or the Christmas thing, right? Like you know, everywhere, and even in Quebec, we saw that for a little bit. You know, like this, where the premier was going. You know, I want my public health officer just, you know, to tell people they're going to like spend their Christmas doll. It's going to be great, and it's like the numbers are not saying that, dude. Like in about 5 days from now, they're going to tell you, you know, this promise that you said that everybody's going to be able to spend restriction free. That's not going to happen. And sure enough, right? But at least in Quebec, the premier decided he was going to follow his health advisor, whereas Kenney apparently was this magical force field at Christmas where, you know, so but it's that level of arrogance. And I mean, I understand that in Kenney's case, he was being forced at the other side to try and open up as much as possible,
right?
Because he was trying to protect his right flank rather than his left. But man, the arrogant, like this Blaine Higgs guy, at least on this,
Mhm.
if he's been on the other issues as he has been on this issue, it's like, no, we have 3 complaints, one of them from somebody talking about kitty litter.
Which
Um,
not true,
and,
never
and
was.
I'm going to take this and I'm going to run with this, and I'm going to be calling this a fad, and and I'm going to, and yes, you could pass all these experts. Well, I disagree, so they're wrong.
It's not how it works.
And with all of that, then add the aggravating factor of I'm going to attack children.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to attack children after they say no to me. I'm going to attack children by taking information that does not belong to me as a member of the state to do anything whatsoever with, either disseminate or hide or champion or discourage, or it does not belong to me in any way to do anything with. And if that child says no, then I want to impose upon him other adults like social workers and psychologists who, by the way, have responded to the premier and saying, would you please rewrite this proposal and not include us in it? Because we do not want to be called in order to add extra pressure onto children who are already going through stuff, who have already said no, to get them to say. I mean, yeah, we'll get the school social workers and the school psychologists to do this, and we'll refer them out. It's like, no, we don't want. We're not down with that. I don't know what made you think that we'd be down with that, but we're not. So, and this guy wants to go to an election on this. He believes that the people of New Brunswick are bigoted enough that they will champion him. That's the bet he's making. I don't know, man.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know. I would. I mean, I see some comments in the chat over the last few days saying, yeah, there is a very big religious base, and he's appealing to it there in New Brunswick. But I have to believe.
So
just have to believe people are better. I want to go through a few before you switch a subjects. I want to go through a few things that have gone through because we asked James. So about Sam Cooper, and he said because you flashed it on the screen, but the listeners didn't get to hear it. He and Global always sort of had a weird relationship even before that story, so it could be the straw that broke the camel's back. But editors and lawyers approved the story. It wasn't his call. Yeah, I get that. Editors and lawyers approved the story. My question is there's always a balance when you're approving the story, right? How badly do you want the story out versus, how many corners are you going to leave rounded or not? It's listen, on these, some of these things are clear cut and some of these things are judgment call, right? And it's what you think you can defend. So yeah, editors and lawyers, we'll see what happens. That, like I said, I know that editors and lawyers are pretty risk adverse.
Usually,
but then there's,
they just want to scoop the story. They want to follow government. Who knows?
Well, that's the thing, right? There comes a point where if they know, let's say, because the people at the Globe and Mail were also working on the story. Now, I don't know if they were working together on the story or they both got when they were working, and maybe there was a race to get it out, and maybe, we don't know.
Well, and this is a good comment from James. This is a good comment from James here. It's difficult for me to blame the journalist at a network when everything from publishing to the headlines are not their call.
Right.
He did his job. It was not his decision to it's not up to him whether that gets aired or not.
Yeah, and it is for the editors and the lawyers to determine if it has enough vetting.
And the Globe and Mail said it didn't, so they walked away from it.
Well, see, and that's the other thing. One didn't and one did.
Yeah. So
had they both walked away or had they both gone ahead?
Right.
So, but that would lead to me is that there is a legitimate basis for debate there. One person saw it one way and one person saw it the other way, and then what was the deciding factors?
I have a sports related thing here for you that you're going to do the same thing I did when it came across my feed like minutes ago.
Okay.
And they're doing it in June. The NHL is banning all cause-based jerseys next season.
Yep.
This comes after several players and teams chose not to wear rainbow-colored pride jerseys last season.
Yep. I'm having a problem with this in that, how many NHL players was it?
Was it even a dozen? I don't even think it was that many. So they're bowing to the extreme vocal minority.
We can't have nice things because they don't want the PR hit.
Yeah. Now, apparently, according to this, Gary Bettman says, quote, "It became a distraction," end quote. Teams will still host and are, hang on. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep up with this feed here because it's a live feed and I can't air it because it's from anyway. But it's saying teams will still host Pride Nights and are also expected to design and produce jerseys to be autographed and sold. Well, to begin with, I'm going to be pedantic here. It's a hockey sweater. Damn it, we all know the poem from the short story from Rock Carrier. We all saw the animated thing. It was on the back of the $5 beer. Freudian slip. $5
was
bill.
In $5 beer.
$5 bill. I wish beer was only $5.
You know that legendary song, "The Hockey Sweater," on the back of the $5 bill, Baroque was in. Wow. No. I hear you. It's a damn hockey sweater.
Yeah, it's a hockey sweater.
It's a damn hockey. But here's the thing, right? It's like a distraction. It's like, no, it's not a distraction. It's a moment. It's the moment to show that you've moved from recognizing us as a market that you desire to consume your product to your allies. When you do something like host a Pride Night, and then people come around and say, "No, you can't do those because they're perverts and groomers, whatnot," and then you turn around and you say, "Oh, okay." Then you say, rather than saying, "No, you are wrong here, and we are going to do the right thing."
Sometimes the right thing is not the easy thing, right? Oftentimes it's the difficult thing.
Yes. Allyship is standing up in the face of blowback.
Yeah.
Because you know the blowback will come.
I'm eagerly awaiting the reply from Brian Burke on this one. You know he's going to lose it, and it's going to be so good.
I believe it had already come out. It's the You Can Play organization.
They've already made a statement, sure. Well, and you got to remember, Brian Burke is not exactly what you'd call a... Brian Burke is an old tough guy is what he is. A man's man, tough guy, but burly, I mean, he speaks, the way he carries himself, all of that. But his oldest son struggled with his sexuality for a long time. When he came out, his parents just, yeah, that's okay. We're fine with it. We love you. You're our son. So Brian Burke has been a big ally and a big proponent of promoting these things, the whole You Can Play organization, right? So yep. I'm eager to hear what he has to say about this, because he's gonna be pissed. He already chastised a bunch of players this past season for refusing to wear it, citing religious reasons. But I'm like, the religious reason is bullshit, because Jesus said to love everybody. Right?
Well, there's nothing on Brian Burke's Twitter feed.
Give him some time.
Since about May 29th. But the You Can Play organization has put out a statement, Mr. Grizzly. We understand that the NHL Board of Governors has made the decision to eliminate the wearing of pride jerseys and all other specialty jerseys supporting cancer, the military, and others by players on the ice in pre-game warm-ups. For the past, I do not know why I said comma. For some reason, for the past,
I didn't
said
even
comma like it was quote.
I didn't even realize it.
I said comma like it was quote.
Yeah.
For some reason. For the past 12 years, we have worked alongside the NHL on advancing visibility and acceptance of the 2S LGBTQ plus community across all aspects of hockey with one purpose, a true sense of belonging for all. This important work has resulted in substantial progress for over a decade and has made the NHL a leader among world major sporting organizations. With that said, we are concerned and disappointed by this decision. Today's decision means that the over 95% of players who chose to wear a pride jersey to support the community will now not get an opportunity to do so. Pride Nights will continue, and we look forward to further enhancing the programming these opportunities bring to the mission of inclusion and belonging for the 2S LGBTQ plus community given this restriction. So basically, they're making the point. 95% of players now no longer have the freedom to wear a cause jersey.
And again, it's pre-game warm-up. It's not during the game. The pre-game warm-up, almost nobody sees that on television. You might see a high ice shot of players skating around for a few seconds in the background while you have talking heads talk about the upcoming match. But it's not, the pre-game warm-up is not televised. When they go out on the ice to play the game, they wear their regular sweaters. So this is really, it's bullshit.
As we have stated in the past, no one aspect is the be-all for showing support, and Pride must be 365. The work to make locker rooms, boardrooms, and arenas safer, more diverse, and more inclusive needs to be ongoing and purposeful, and we will continue to work with our partners at the NHL, including individual teams, players, agents, and the NHLPA, that's the Players Association, to ensure this critical work continues.
Mm-hmm. PNC pile. But I know they used to be wearing rainbows, and that'll make me mess my pants. I'm sorry I had to read it in that voice because I don't know any other way to do that.
We had on the PP discussion, we had Kit James pop in with, let's face it, our country's probably safer if PP doesn't know things.
Well, I'm not going to argue with that statement.
Considering he idolizes seemingly the guy south of us and what he's done with national intelligence. You're probably right, my friend.
When you think about it, Pride is already on display on the ice anyway. You've got a red line, a blue line, the referee with orange armbands, like the black and white striped shirts. The colors of the rainbow are all there.
Yeah, I know. But it's this thing, and we saw it with Bud Light. You know, they took away the person who had made the decision to do the can for Dylan Mulvaney. He got
one can
put on got put on leave, and then Target. Because people came in and started stomping on signs, and now they're removing certain products from the lines, and it's just like, really, like, why are you caving? Why are you caving? Yeah, and again, I understand, right? The poor schlub that works at Target for minimum wage or barely over minimum wage, who has like this guy coming in and saying, why are you working at this place to support groomers? Like, they don't get paid enough.
And they have to treat that
I get it.
That person, with kindness and respect. I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Just get out.
And
just get out.
But I get that for a company, if you're protecting your employees and this stuff is happening, then like, okay, fine, just not put out the merchandise. I get that as a corporate decision, but it's just so disappointing that a small group of people can just decide, you know what? fine. We'll make you. Because we'll just break everything until you give us our way.
I have a supporting graphic for this.
All right.
I am not a liberal snowflake. My feelings aren't fragile. My heart isn't bleeding. I'm a badass believer in human rights. My toughness is in tenderness. My strength is in the service of others. There is nothing more fierce than a formidable, unconditional love. There is not a thing more courageous than compassion. But if my belief in equity, empathy, goodness, and love indeed makes me or people like me snowflakes, then you should know winter is coming.
I like that.
It's good, right?
That's really good.
Well,
that's really good.
Here's another graphic that I know you'll love. So this is minority, disabled, majority counterpart, able-bodied. And it's a pictograph of, somebody in a wheelchair, somebody not in a wheelchair. Minority, people of color, majority counterpart, white. Minority, gay, bi, majority counterpart, straight. Minority, trans, majority counterpart, cis. No, I'm offended.
Yeah.
Cis means you're not trans, which is what I put in the write-up here about how a certain social media owner wants to ban the word cis as a slur. He's not that smart.
No, not that smart. Not that smart. Not that smart at all. And we have, as we mentioned earlier, the thing with Meta. They're going full bore with it now. They've been cutting off random Canadians here and there as a pilot, and now they're going full board with it in protest of C-18, the Online News Act. They are going to cut Canadians off of news on their platform, which I'm not sure exactly is a terrible thing, to be totally honest, considering that most of news in Canada is right-wing, foreign-owned. So if fewer Canadians are sharing that with each other on Twitter and, well, not on Twitter, but on Meta and going, hey, isn't this awful? And then maybe start talking about kitty cats and piano recitals and
the way it
trading recipes again, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
This might be a little situation to be careful what you wish for.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you got like Daddy Lonnie, trying to make cis a slur.
And I understand.
And you got
James
Meta trying to say, no? Pardon?
I understand, because James here says almost nobody ever uses cis as a compliment. It's almost always intended to be organically negative. But the thing is, it's an actual term. It's a scientific term to be used as a descriptor to say, if I say I'm cis het, it means I'm straight and not trans, and I identify as the gender I was assigned at birth, which is male. And if people don't want to be bothered to look up what the term means, well, that's not my problem. Quite frankly, I will continue to identify as a cis het white male, because that's what I am. And I don't find it as an insult. And het is short for hetero. Right?
Which is short for heterosexual.
Right, which is short for heterosexual. Which means, cis het white is a full descriptor. Cis het white male. That's what I am. I'm not trans. I'm heterosexual. I'm white and I'm male. Because cis does not indicate which gender you identify as. That's why I put male at the end of it, right?
Right. So we have a situation where the government is being given a wonderful opportunity to punch up on people that nobody likes. The owners of the Al-bro-rithm companies. Nobody likes them.
Al-bro-rithm.
So you have Minister Pablo Rodriguez, who is from the province of Quebec, where they're particularly pissed off at this, because as I mentioned before, billionaire Pierre-Carl Pelado, who's the owner of the Journal de Montréal and La Presse.
He owns Videotron as well, does he?
Videotron as well. Yes. Videotron as well is very, very, very upset and supporting the Prime Minister in standing up to Meta. And Pablo Rodriguez has been echoing that and saying it in a style. Now, this comment is in English, and he has an accent, so it sounds away. But being a francophone, I imagine him saying these words in French.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And when you need to hit on the emotional chords of Quebecers, he's playing a symphony.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we cannot live under threat. We're a sovereign government. We are elected by people. We can't have a foreign company, even if they're big and they're powerful and they have a lot of money. We can't have that company coming here and saying, oh, okay, Government of Canada, we don't like what you're doing. And because we don't like what you're doing, this is how we're going to react and impact Canadians. I think that's unacceptable.
No argument.
Because those exact words were exactly said in the sovereignty movement. The other way around. Maître chez nous. Okay, Canada, you're going to come to Quebec and tell us how things are going to be out here. So, Al-bro-rithm is the best term I've heard. Thank you. I was inspired. Up there with homosexual. Yep. That one I can't claim credit for. Homosexual is not mine, but Al-bro-rithm I've never heard before that. So I think it's mine.
So that's yours? Okay. Well, we'll claim it as yours today. Somebody somewhere may have said it too. We don't, but
maybe. I've never seen it though.
Yeah, neither have I.
So CE Bro I've seen before. So I was inspired by CE Bro, and I wanted to see if I could take that and say, Al-bro-rithm. I like to play with words. Words in my life.
No, that's a good one.
All right. So that's going on today as well. We talked about sports a little earlier. Canada's national women's soccer team still has not had the pay thing resolved. And they are putting in extra demands to have it resolved before they go to the World Cup. To go into the damn World Cup. And Soccer Canada still will not give them equal pay. And it's not just pay, it's pay and preparation resources for the tournament. So, for example, they haven't even been given a send-off game yet.
No.
Right? The team's ranked 7th in the world now, but they do, they are defending Olympic gold medalists. And, it's not like they've got the easiest draw for round one. They're facing Nigeria, Ireland, and the home team of Australia. And there's just, why? Basically, Deanna Rose, who was injured and she's returning to the team, is quoted as saying, "It is unsettling knowing that we've had to be dealing with this, and some of our player reps have had that pressure for a few months now. I think now is just time for us to focus on the tournament." Canada Soccer, do you want them to do well or not?
Yeah, no kidding.
I do not know what's wrong with our sporting organizations. All of them. There were problems at Gymnastics Canada. There were problems at Rowing Canada. There were problems at Boxing Canada. In Boxing Canada, there were problems worldwide. The IOC just announced that they're dissociating from the International Boxing Association.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Right? We had problems with bobsled. I mean, we lost Kaylee Humphrey. She went to the States. She couldn't stand it here anymore. Under Bobsled Canada, there's been problems at Curling Canada.
I'm gonna go with this and tell me your thoughts.
Canada?
Tell me your thoughts on this. I'm gonna go with this. This is my take. Okay, pretty simple, pretty straightforward, very basic. These organizations have been for many, many years and still are to this day filled with old white men who have failed up throughout their entire lives and will not be told how to do their job by some uppity person. Do you think I'm wrong? Maybe I am. I could be.
No.
Could be. That's just my take. That doesn't mean I don't know who runs any of these organizations. So it's a take. It's not a statement. There's a difference, right? It's a take. A statement would be, I've fully researched and vetted the names of all these individuals, but the take is different than a statement. So I'm not putting out a statement. Right. I'm making a take. I'm having a take. That's my take on.
Right. Okay, James Ken. Also, I love it when Douglas talks Frenchy. My little poodle, come with me to the Casbah. We will make beautiful music together. Gee, I think I know now why Pepe Le Pew is no longer on Looney Tunes.
He was rapist.
Me too got Le Pew.
It was Dave
I
Chappelle
love
did a
Pepe
bit
Le-
about that. And Dave Chappelle did
I
a bit
love
about
Pepe
that
Le
years
Pew,
ago.
though. I don't know
No,
why.
I get it. But Chappelle did a thing about that years ago. He goes, Sesame Street. He goes, Sesame Street's not always teaching kids the good things. I go, what do you mean?
No.
He goes, well, they got a pimp on there. And they go, what? A pimp? He goes, you don't believe me? Look at the count. He's got that big cape with the giant collar and the red velvet on the inside. He's like, one slap, two slaps. He was a pimp. And Oscar the Grouch, that's teaching children to hate homeless people. Like, really? What? Well, yeah. Why are you such a grouch? Bitch, I live in a trash can.
He was the guy with the trench coat. It's like, psst, want to buy a letter Q?
Yeah.
How about a number 4?
I'm like, that's kind of dark, man.
Shh. But the number 4, shh. Not so loud.
Want to buy a watch? And they wonder why they step over homeless people.
Funny enough, I've never seen a Wheel of Fortune Sesame Street crossover with that guy's want to buy a vowel.
That would have been pretty good, actually. Guy Smiley.
Wheel of Misfortune with Guy Smiley. No, we don't sell vowels. Only W's.
That's a consonant. Consonant.
Yes. Exactly. Oh, speaking of Wheel of Fortune, because my mind works in weird ways, Pat Sajak is leaving the show.
Darn, who cares? He's a right-wing conspiracy theorist, GOP supporting, Trump-loving piece of shit. So fuck that guy.
All right, tell us how you really feel.
Well, I could, but we could be here for a little while. So.
Yeah, Kit Saucy. Oh, I like this suggestion, but the NHL will probably not go for that if they have problems with the jerseys. Paint rainbows under the ice of the rinks. I love that.
That's a good one. Write it down. That's a good one. Write it down.
I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. Oh, we have a Kit Pete here. Kit Pete asked us a question the other day.
Sport a good thing?
Because no, in Australia,
yeah.
they're having a referendum because it was National Indigenous Peoples Day here. And with ours, we did introduced a bill to make sure, or we unveiled the plan of action coming from the bill that says that we're going to address UNDRIP and make it conform with our laws. The UNDA bill, the United Nations Declaration Act that we passed 2 years ago on the day of National Indigenous Persons Day of this year, which was 2 days ago. And in that, there's doing something called a non-derogation clause that they've included, that they want to strengthen the Constitution with a non-derogation clause. Whereas in Australia, they're looking, there's been a bill that's passed the House and the Senate, if I know this correctly, in which there's going to be recognition of UNDRIP, but now it's being subjected to a referendum. The people. And Kit Pete was asking if anything like that has been done here. We've done the UNDRIP process, but we did not subject it to a referendum whatsoever. It was just a consideration that we don't vote on people's rights in that sense. But also we're Indigenous people in Canada were already protected under the Constitution under Section 35. So instead of having a referendum, what we're doing is the non-derogation clause. Basically, it's a clause that you include in law. So I'm thinking they're proposing it. Justice Minister David Lametti introduced it as a bill in the Senate, not in the House. So I'm thinking it might be a way to add something to the Constitution or something. So it might be a type of mini constitutional amendment in one sense. But what it will do is it will make it clear that nothing as it pertains to Section 35, right, which is the rights of Indigenous, First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people, all three specific groups. No bill should be serving to weaken those rights and whatsoever. Anything that's been done legislatively should be to uphold specifically those provisions. Now, I'm not sure if that's a non-derogation clause because I don't have that much of background in law. Is something that's more legally symbolic, still important, because when somebody passes a law and says, "Well, no, this law will have the perverse effect of not upholding this principle, so therefore we shouldn't do that." But yeah, Pete, to answer your question, that's about the difference here is that we didn't have to subject it to a referendum. We hope that that Australians vote for inclusion, because that would be really great. It'd be really great. It's just a shame that it has to be subjected to a vote of the people, and that just the human rights aren't just not inherently recognized because they're inherent. But yeah, I wanted to get to your question, so thanks for asking it. Heteroflexible still wears the crown for the best label. I love it. Oh, you kids are wonderful. Wonderful. I love your comments. Okay, what else have we got?
I got a couple
going
of quick,
for you? Big international news.
I got a couple quick graphics, and then I got to roll out. I have a meeting I have to attend in a couple of minutes here. So let me just two quick graphics, sir. This is you're familiar with the Hollywood Walk of Fame?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know that former President Donald Trump has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he does. So
I did not know that.
It's been hammered out.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, he's had it for a few years. People have come and hammered it out with jackhammers before and got charged for vandalism, because it is vandalism. But anyway, somebody decided to provide some decorations upon his star yesterday, and here they are. So for the listeners, it is a toilet and a bathtub, and the bathtub is stacked high with giant banker's boxes that say classified, top secret. And they have crime scene yellow tape cordoning off the entire area. And notice the roll of toilet paper on the back of the toilet tank to give it some authenticity. I think that's really funny.
It's art. I love it.
It is art. And then there's the question: are you an optimist, a pessimist, or a realist? You're familiar with that, right? And I know you're wired for optimism.
Oh, yeah,
wired for it. Me, I think I'm probably a realist. I can be optimistic, and I try and tend to be optimistic, but I think I'm more of a realist because, quite frankly, it's like realist, the only one who really knows what's going on. It's got 3 different glasses. The first one, I'm half full. The second one, I'm half empty. The third one, I think this is piss because it's a yellow liquid in the glass.
Half full or empty of what?
Exactly. I thought we'd end on a funny note today because it's Friday and we want to roll into the weekend in a super good positive mood, despite some of the horrible bad news we had to relay to the fine, beautiful people who like to enjoy this program. And thank you for sharing it with as many people as you are growing our subscriber base on YouTube. We really do appreciate that. Our subscriber base on Spotify has grown by leaps and bounds. So thank you for the listeners. Thank you for the viewers. Nice. And I just wanted to send you off into the weekend with a couple of chuckles.
Well, your pessimist, optimist, and pessimist, realist joke reminds me of one I know as well. What's the definition of an optimist? An optimist is a person, despite the fact that when the summer comes along, they still have their winter weight, still buy their summer weight clothes. What's the definition of a pessimist?
I don't know.
Someone who lends money to an optimist.
Okay. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that. That's a good one. That's a good one. Write it down. That's a good one.
All right. I think we have a show.
We do.
What do you think, Mr. Grizzly?
We do. We do.
I'm so
I have
glad
one
I
more
had a chance.
graphic. One more quick graphic,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
This is some positive news. This isn't a chuckle. This is just to lift your spirits. Because every time Skippy says Canada is broken, people are leaving, nobody wants to live here. We know that's not true because we just surpassed 40 million in our population. There's also this, the 2023's Global Livability Index top 10 cities. Number 1, Vienna, Austria. Number 2, Copenhagen, Denmark. Number 3, Melbourne, Australia. Number 4, Sydney,
Hey.
Australia. Number 5, Vancouver, Canada. Number 6, Zurich, Switzerland. Number 7, Calgary, Canada. Tied with Geneva. I know Geneva's number 8. Sorry, the numbering's off there. Number 8, Geneva, Switzerland. Number 9, Toronto, Canada. And number 10, Osaka, Japan. There's only one country in the world that has 3 cities in it in the top 10 2023 Global Livability Index, and that's us.
Australia's got 2 though, looking good.
And Melbourne,
looking
good,
in there, cousins.
Eh?
Yeah, exactly. Melbourne as well. There you
Melbourne.
go. Well, kids, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver podcast. We hope that you loved listening to us because we loved making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So let your peeps know about us because democracy is something that you do. If you can donate to the Red Cross to help with relief for the wildfires, that would be absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. And if you're in the Toronto area, if advance voting is still on, I'm not sure if it still is.
I don't know.
Maybe Dan T can tell us if he's still here. Well, I think he may have left for work. But yes, please vote. Let's hope that somewhere we can see a progressive win. That would be nice. All right. If you like this podcast, you can find us on the Crier Media Network, as well as all Beaver Grizzly friendly platforms. Stars and reviews are appreciated. So if you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please take some time to leave us some stars and a review. It does help people find us. So there you go. No, Dan T's there. No, it's not. Monday is vote day. Yeah. But is early voting still
That's the question
today?
No, we know Monday is the vote. We just didn't know.
Yeah, Monday's the vote day. So yeah, just wondering if early, because I know the early voting gets cut off at some point. I just don't know how many days ahead it is. We'd love to hear from you. Reach us on our Facebook at True North Eager Beaver, on our Twitter feed at True Eager, or by email via truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And you can subscribe to us via our pod page. That's podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, all in lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of the words. Why not also subscribe to our True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube channel? That helps us out big time. Make like Kit Elaine and smash those buttons, the subscribe one, as well as the likes. Thank you very much. We can't do this without your kind and generous support. So if you feel that we've done a particularly good show or we've had a good week, if you're watching, you can scan the QR code that I'm sure will appear very soon by Mr. Grizzly's head. And that will bring you to our emergency hydration fund, where Guinness and coffee and hot chocolate and Caesars await us to help us write, produce, and deliver this wonderful, well, we hope you find wonderful show to you. Because
Fun
it's
show.
not for us to say.
Fun.
It's for you to say. It's for you to say.
Fun for
Of
us.
course. I mean,
we hope it's fun for you.
I'm biased. I mean, I'm obviously biased. I think it's wonderful, but it's what you think that matters. If you're listening, then you go to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And that's where you can make your contribution. From the Beaver Lodge, this is your Eager Beaver saying, until next time, dear kids, it can be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And Mr. Grizzly, please, if you have some words of wisdom, I would love it.
I actually don't.
Oh,
I'm literally drawing a blank right now. I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Well, you've had a certain number of rants this week, so you might just be tapped out.
I might be tapped out. I have had a few rants. Yeah.
It's been a week for you.
It's been pretty emotional too. So yeah, I just love everybody. That's it. You know, I got nothing more than that to say.
All right, Mr. Grizzly, roll them credits.
Let me just find the button that does that. Oh, there it is.
There we go.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver media podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum. And The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
All right, kids, have a wonderful weekend. I just found out that maybe early voting is indeed already over in Toronto. Did not know that. Sorry. But about 130,000 people casted an early vote, which is about a 12% increase from the previous election. Oh. So there you go. All right.
This is good.
Have a great weekend. Yeah.
All right. See ya.